So here's something worth knowing before you spend another dollar on a plant you're about to lose. There's a $4 hydroponic trick called the Kratky method that can save your dying houseplants, and it works even if you've never successfully grown anything in your life. All you need is a mason jar, a net cup, some water, and about 10 minutes. No fancy equipment, no pumps, no electricity. By the end of this, you'll know exactly how to rescue a struggling plant, grow herbs on your kitchen counter, and build your own passive hydroponic system for less than the cost of a coffee. Before we continue, if you want to start growing your own fresh food at home, I've put everything you need into a book, Beginner Hydroponics for Home Gardeners. Save $5,000 a year growing food at home. It's a complete, beginner-friendly guide that takes you from total newbie to confident grower. No soil, no yard, and no experience required. Inside you'll find easy step-by-step DIY projects, a simple 30-day plan to your first harvest, troubleshooting cheat sheets, and the exact methods to grow fresh, organic herbs and veggies all year round while slashing your grocery bill by thousands. If you want the book, I'll leave the link in the description. I won't mention this again. Picture this. You've got a plant that's looking rough. Maybe the leaves are yellowing, maybe it's drooping, no matter how much you water it. Maybe your cat knocked it off the shelf and half the root ball is destroyed. Maybe you're dealing with fungus gnats, those annoying little flies that breed in moist soil and signal that something's wrong at the root level. Whatever happened, you're staring at this sad little thing and wondering if it's finally time to toss it in the compost bin. Don't do that. Not yet. Here's what most people miss entirely. When a plant is dying in soil, it's usually not the whole plant that's gone. Parts of it are still alive, still green, still firm, and those healthy parts carry a remarkable ability to regenerate into completely new plants if you give them the right conditions. That's exactly what we're going to use today, and water is the medium that makes the whole thing surprisingly simple. The folks at Houseplant 101 called water propagation a gateway into the world of creating new plants, and they nailed it. It's visual. You can literally watch roots forming through the glass. It's incredibly simple, and for the right plants, the success rate runs close to 100%. But we're going further than basic propagation here. This is about a complete budget hydroponic setup built around the Kratky method, and that's where the $4 price tag comes in. Dr. Bernard A. Kratky developed this method in the 1990s at the University of Hawaii's College of Tropical Agriculture. It's a passive hydroponic system, which means plants grow in a nutrient-rich water solution without any pumps, aerators, or electricity. Zero moving parts. Unlike deep water culture or DWC, which requires a constant air pump to oxygenate the roots, the Kratky method does this automatically. The plant sits in a net cup above the water. The roots grow down into the solution, and as the water level drops, an air gap forms that gives the roots access to oxygen. The plant essentially regulates itself, drinking what it needs, breathing what it needs, and just growing. That's the entire system. And here's why this matters for your dying plant. When you take a cutting from a healthy section of a struggling plant, you're giving that genetic material a fresh start. No contaminated soil, no root rot spreading through the system, just clean water, available nutrients, and the plant's own natural regenerative biology doing what it's evolved to do over millions of years. The numbers back this up too. Plants grown hydroponically grow up to 50% faster than in soil. 50%. They also use about 90% less water than conventional soil growing, because the water gets captured and reused in a closed system. The hydroponics market is projected to climb from around $53 billion in 2025 to nearly $120 billion by 2032. This isn't a fringe hobby, it's the future of growing, and you can get started for $4. So let's walk through exactly how to do this. Step 1 is gathering your supplies. You need a wide-mouth mason jar. Either 32 or 64 ounce works perfectly, and a 3-inch net cup, which is that small basket with holes in it. Here's a genuinely useful hack. 3-inch net cups fit perfectly into the mouth of a standard wide-mouth mason jar, so you don't need to cut any holes in anything. Just remove the flat lid insert, place the net cup on top of the jar, and screw the ring band down over it. The net cup is now suspended exactly where you need it. For growing media inside the net cup, you have a few options. Grow sponges are the easiest starting point, but LECA, which stands for Lightweight Expanded Clay Aggregate, also called clay pebbles, is a popular reusable alternative that drains well and gives roots something solid to grip. Either works fine for a mason jar setup. A mason jar runs about $1. Net cups come in packs and cost well under $1 each. Add tap water and you're looking at roughly $4 total. If you want to go further, a small bottle of liquid hydroponic nutrients, something like Master Blend or a simple calcium nitrate formula, might bring you to $15 or $20 total, but those supplies stretch across months and dozens of plants. Step 2 is taking your cuttings, and this is the most important part, so stay with me. Look at your struggling plant and identify anything that's still healthy, sections that are green, firm, and pest-free. With clean, sharp scissors or shears, make a clean cut just below a leaf node. A node is that small bump or joint on the stem where leaves emerge, and it's where the roots will develop. Your cuttings should run about 4 to 6 inches long. Now, and this part is critical, trim off any leaves that would end up below the waterline. Submerged leaves rot. Rotting leaves contaminate your water, and contaminated water kills your cutting. Strip those lower leaves off, leaving a bare stem with at least 1 or 2 exposed nodes that will sit underwater. Keep a few leaves above the waterline so the cutting can still photosynthesize. Quick question for you halfway through. Have you ever tried propagating a plant in water before, or is this your very first time? Comment first timer or done it before below. I love knowing who I'm talking to, and it helps me make videos that actually fit where you're at. Step 3 is setting up your jar. Fill the mason jar with room temperature water. Not cold, not hot, room temperature. If your tap water runs heavily chlorinated, let it sit out overnight to off-gas, or just use filtered water. One thing worth knowing if you decide to add nutrients: keep your pH in the 5.5 to 6.5 range, which is the sweet spot for nutrient uptake in hydroponic systems. A basic pH testing kit costs a couple of dollars and takes the guesswork out of it. If you're adding a nutrient solution, a target EC, or electrical conductivity, of around 1 to 2 millisiemens per centimeter is appropriate for leafy plants and herbs at the beginner level. That sounds more technical than it is. Most liquid nutrient bottles spell it out clearly on the label. Place your cutting through the net cup so the bare stem and nodes hang down into the water, with the leaves sitting above the rim. Grow sponges or clay pebbles tucked around the stem in the net cup will hold things steady. One thing people consistently overlook is covering the jar. Algae thrives on light and water, and a clear mason jar sitting in a sunny spot will develop green, slimy algae growth that competes with your cutting for nutrients and oxygen. Some people wrap their jars in aluminum foil, others use a black sock, and you can also paint the outside of the jar with dark paint. Whichever method you choose, block the light from reaching the water. Step 4 is placing your jar and waiting. Find a spot with bright, indirect light, not direct sun, blasting through a window, because that cooks the cutting and encourages algae. Bright, indirect light is the sweet spot. Change the water every few days to prevent stagnation and keep oxygen levels up. Here's the timeline you can expect. Fast rooters like pothos typically show roots within 10 to 15 days, while most other plants take 3 to 4 weeks. Some slower growers might take up to a couple of months. You'll know things are going well when you spot small white nubs emerging from the nodes. Those are root initials, and they'll quickly elongate into proper roots. Healthy roots look plump and white to tan with white tips. Brown, slimy, or mushy roots signal a problem, usually stagnant water or bacterial contamination. Now let's talk about the tricks that dramatically boost your success rate. The first is what people call the pothos trick, and it's genuinely fascinating. If you have a pothos in your collection, and honestly most of us do, because they're nearly indestructible, try placing a pothos cutting in the same jar as whatever other cutting you're trying to root. Many gardeners report that this speeds up rooting in neighboring cuttings, with the theory being that pothos naturally release rooting compounds, specifically auxins, into the water. The science on this is still debated, but the anecdotal success rate is high enough that it's worth trying, and the pothos certainly isn't going to hurt anything. Pothos, by the way, is the undisputed champion of water propagation. Golden pothos, neon pothos, marble queen, they all root incredibly fast and can actually live in water indefinitely. The second trick is willow water, an old gardener's secret with solid science behind it. Willow trees carry high levels of two substances that enhance root growth. The first is indolebutyric acid, or IBA, which is the same active ingredient found in commercial rooting hormone powders. The second is salicylic acid, which acts as a natural antifungal, protecting your cuttings from infection while they're vulnerable. To make willow water at home, gather some fresh willow branches and cut them into small pieces. Fill a container about halfway with those pieces, then pour boiling water over them at roughly a 1:2 ratio of willow to water. Let it steep overnight like you're making a plant tea, then strain out the willow pieces. You've now got a natural rooting hormone solution to fill your propagation jars, and it costs nothing if you have access to a willow tree. The third trick involves hydrogen peroxide, but it comes with a warning. Adding 1 drop of 3% hydrogen peroxide to a jar of water adds extra oxygen, which can help cuttings develop roots faster. The key word is 1 drop. Hydrogen peroxide is a bleaching agent, and too much will destroy healthy plant tissue. You're going for a subtle oxygen boost, not sterilization. If you use this approach, change the water every 2 days with a fresh drop each time. The fourth trick is the aloe vera method. Fresh aloe is packed with naturally occurring rooting hormones, so slice open an aloe leaf, stick the cut end of your cutting into the fillet of aloe, and twirl it around to coat the stem in that gel before placing it in water. It's like giving your cutting a vitamin shot right before it starts growing. Now, let's cover which plants are the best candidates, because not everything loves water. The absolute stars of water propagation are aroids, a family that includes monstera, pothos, philodendron, epipremnum, and syndapsus. These plants evolved in tropical environments where they frequently encountered water, and their nodes produce adventitious roots at the slightest encouragement. Other excellent candidates include Tradescantia, which can grow in water indefinitely, along with Coleus, Swedish ivy, Syngonium, and lucky bamboo. Monstera deliciosa deserves its own mention because it's one of the most popular houseplants in the world and does phenomenally well in water. A monstera in a large glass vase as a permanent display piece. Those big fenestrated leaves emerging from a clear vessel with visible roots spiraling below is honestly one of the most striking ways to show off a plant. For the kitchen gardeners, this method shines with herbs and leafy greens. Basil practically thrives in hydroponic setups because it craves exactly the kind of consistent moisture that water provides. Lettuce, celery, green onions, and rosemary all do well in simple mason jar setups, and a windowsill herb garden producing fresh basil and green onions year-round costs almost nothing to maintain. A word on what doesn't work well in water. Succulents and cacti evolved in arid conditions and rot easily when sitting in water. Woody-stemmed plants, bulbs, corms, and tubers also need a different approach. Stick to soft-stemmed, node-rich plants, and your results will stay strong. A common question worth addressing here is whether you can transfer a full plant from soil to water. You can, but there's a process. Gently remove all the soil from the roots without damaging them. Rinse thoroughly, then submerge the clean roots in water. Expect some transplant shock. The plant might droop for 2 to 5 days as the roots adjust from soil to constant water access, and that's completely normal. Give new plants 2 to 3 weeks to acclimate before making any other changes. One more critical point that trips people up constantly. Use only healthy plants or healthy parts of plants for this process. This isn't a way to revive something that's completely diseased or infested with pests, because you'll just transfer those problems into the water. The goal is to salvage healthy tissue and give it a fresh start, not to dunk a sick plant and hope for the best. Here's what makes this whole approach genuinely compelling for home gardeners. There's no soil to spill, no worries about pets digging in your pots, and dramatically fewer pest problems. Fungus gnats, those annoying little flies that hover around your houseplants, breed in moist soil. No soil means no fungus gnats, and that alone convinces a lot of people to make the switch. The cleanliness factor is what hooks most people on hydroponics once they try it. No messy soil, no drainage trays, no guessing about overwatering or underwatering. You can see the water level and the root health at a glance. And on the question of scale, once you've mastered the basic mason jar setup, you can expand easily. A shallow opaque storage tote costs $1 to $5 and holds multiple net cups for a larger Kratky system, so a full lettuce or herb garden running in a single tote on your patio becomes very realistic. Total startup cost for something like that sits between $5 and $20. For anyone who wants to take the next step up from the Kratky method, aeroponics, where roots are misted rather than submerged, is another fascinating direction. Though it does require equipment, the Kratky method is where most home growers start, precisely because there's nothing to plug in. This is playing out at a massive scale as well. In January 2025, Aerospring Hydroponics launched a project in the UAE targeting a 400% increase in yield per square meter with reduced water consumption. In April 2025, a ministry in St. Martin rolled out a hydroponics training program in schools. This technology is earning global recognition as a solution for food security, water conservation, and sustainable growing. But you don't need to think about it on that scale. Think about your kitchen windowsill. One mason jar. One cutting from a plant that was headed for the trash. $4.10 of your time. 3 weeks from now, you'll have roots. A month after that, you'll have a thriving plant growing in water, looking gorgeous in a glass jar on your counter. And the first time you watch roots spiral down through clear water from a cutting you rescued yourself, you'll understand exactly why people call water propagation a gateway. Because once you see how simple this is, once you realize you can multiply your plant collection for practically nothing, one jar won't be enough. So go find that struggling plant you've been meaning to deal with. Grab a mason jar, cut below the node, strip the lower leaves, and drop it in water. That's the whole trick. $4, 10 minutes, and a plant that gets to live another day. Now I want to hear from you. Which trick are you going to try first? The pothos trick, willow water, hydrogen peroxide, or the aloe vera method? Drop it in the comments, and if you've got a water propagation win or fail of your own, share it below so the rest of us can learn from it. And if this saved you from tossing a plant today, do me a quick favor. Hit that like button, subscribe to Plant Care Secrets TV so you never miss a trick like this, and tap that join button to become a member of our channel. Members get even more behind-the-scenes plant care tips and support this channel so we can keep them coming. I'll see you in the next one. Happy growing.